Hey all, Chris Parry here from Equity Guru. I'm going to do something I haven't done for a long time, and that is I'm going to talk cannabis. Now, why would I talk cannabis when I've been telling everybody since 2018 to get out of cannabis? Because there are outliers in every industry. Now, I think cannabis in Canada is a crap industry, to be sure. I got a small investment in a decent little dispensary that kind of breaks even, doesn't really do great. Top dispensary in the city in terms of customer satisfaction, all the metrics that you want to take, breaks even. So what do you think everyone else is doing? So you don't want to be in the dispensaries. There's too many dispensaries. They're all run by enthusiasts. They're not necessarily run by good businessmen, and the good businessmen have raised too much money to ever repay what it is that they're going to get from clients. Why isn't weed making more inroads into the market? Because the growth opportunity for weed in Canada is people that don't smoke weed, right? Anyone who smokes weed, they already have a guy. It might not be even in the legal market. They've got a guy who comes behind the dumpster and gives them their baggie for $20 every now and then, and they're happy with that guy. Or they go to a dispensary and they smoke what they smoke, what they've always smoked. Where's the growth? There's only growth if you're creating new weed users, and newsflash, we're not. The kids aren't smoking a lot of weed right now. Not even close to what they were traditionally. They're also not drinking. They're doing shrooms. They're doing other recreational drugs, but they ain't going out to a dispensary and saying, show me your menu, Mr. Bud Tender. They're just not. So where can the industry go to a place where it has upside? It's people that don't think of themselves as cannabis users. It's the edibles market, but more than that, it's extracts. It's extracts going into regular mainstream products. And you know what happens right now to stop that? The government gets involved and says, we're only approving so many products to have cannabis in them. You can't market them in any way, shape, or form. You have to sell them through the government distribution model. And if you think you're going to make money doing that, guess again. The guys growing the weed, they're not making money because they grow way too much, because if they grow less, their share price drops. The guys that are selling the weed aren't making money because there's too many of them and they've got to pay government taxes. And the guys that are processing and extracting, they're not making any money because the products that we were promised are not being allowed on the market. Beverages are an interesting thing. But again, if you've got to go to a dispensary to get them, forget about it. Now, I want to be able to have a sandwich with bread that's CBD enriched. I would like to have, instead of an energy drink, a CBD drink out of the 7-Eleven cooler. But I can't do that because the Canadian government says, one, can't do anything outside of the government distribution model, and two, not allowed to have products that kids might actually participate in or people might enjoy, or that you might be able to market as being enjoyable. So where do we make money in cannabis? Glad you asked. There are a handful of companies, that are doing niche work. That is, they've got one little area where they dominate. And I think those little guys that have had a couple of years to figure out their business model and have hopefully kept away from either raising way too much money or borrowing way too much money, and are now at a place where they're starting to get noticed by users within the framework of the existing marijuana users in Canada that do not seem to be multiplying in any really meaningful way. Okay, so who are they? Well, I'll tell you one. And this is a company that way back in the day we had as a client when they first came out the gates. They've had a couple of lean years, but they survived. And that company is Avant Brands, AVNT. Avant Brands has gone up and it's gone down and it's gone up and it's gone down. It was at 12 cents, it was at 90 cents, it was back and forth. A lot of people made a lot of money in both directions on Avant Brands, but in the middle of it all, Norton Singhaven, who is the man behind the company, who started this thing off back in the day and has managed to keep its head above water through the rough times and slowly build brand recognition to the point where you go online and you look at anyone who's a weed participant in Canada who's posted what they like and don't like, and black market the Avant brand consistently rates high. Now, why is this important? Because there are a lot of people out there that have been growing weed for a long time, black market and otherwise, who have sold the world that they are experts. And yet the stuff that comes out of their facilities is by and large generic crap. back in the day, you had Supreme that had a really good 7 Acres brand that everyone was loving for a while. That got bought by Tweed, and now it's who gives a shit. You've got a couple of companies like Experian that established themselves and got an exit. You've got a couple of companies on the horizon like BC Bud Corp. You've got a couple of companies that work outside of Canada. IMC, Bioharvest, Ex-Phyto, or whatever they're calling that thing now. But Avant Brands is interesting to me. And I say this not because this is a client, not because I have any stock, but because for a lot of years now, I've been watching Avant as a barometer. I know Norton Singhaven is a good guy. And I knew several years ago that his business model was, I'm going to do it the hard way. I'm going to show it every month. I'm going to show my work. I'm going to show runs on the board. I'm going to ramp up revenues bit by bit. We're not going to go out there and get cheap money. We're not going to go out there and borrow up a storm. We're just going to be the outliers. They're going to sit here and do good business. And when the market figures itself out, we will be the one everyone looks to. And God damn it if he's not right. Because now you look and they are ramping up revenues. Recently, in the last quarter that just came out, you had 23rd of January, $8.8 million approximately is anticipated for the fourth quarter of 2022. Gross revenue of $22.6 million for the year, both of which are record revenue numbers. The $8.8 million for the fourth quarter is about $4 million more than the third quarter of last year, which is roughly 50% increase. And that's impressive because, as I said, we're not making any more weed smokers. What's happening is these guys are finding new places to sell the product where it hasn't been sold before, including Israel and Australia, where they sold $5 million worth of product in the last quarter. They're putting out, they're increasing their ability to supply by taking out good deals to bring in new acquisitions. They're basically buying market share responsibly, low cost. And then on the terms of their accounts receivable, which is a problem for a lot of cannabis companies, low credit risk on and no significant uncollectible balances during the last year, which means they're not just going out there and throwing their product to anyone who'll take it. They're putting their product on shelves where they're certain that they'll be dealing with a quality retailer. That is very responsible fiscal management. This is a company that is growing, but not growing stupid. They're growing, but not at great expense. They're not spending $200,000 to grow by $50,000. You know what I'm saying? They're not out there marketing themselves at all, much to my annoyance. I'd love them to be actually doing a market awareness program with me because I believe in what they're doing. I respect what they're doing, and I've been telling people about what they're doing for the last several years for free. That's because back in the day, I was a cannabis guy. I was a cannabis markets guy. I was the first cannabis markets guy. That market where everyone was making money hand over fist, I was the first guy in. I was the first man to say, there's a public company getting involved in cannabis here. And I rode that thing all the way to 2018, late 2018, when I said, enough, it's too inflated. Nobody's going to make money from here. You should get out of everything cannabis. And I got that to within 4 days of the actual sector top. Haven't talked about cannabis except for the odd small company ever since. And Avant has generally been that odd small company. I appreciate what they're doing and the way they're doing it. I think it's a really interesting deal. I think it's still dirt cheap. And quite frankly, at 20 cents, it's up significantly from where it was just a few days ago. It was up 16 cents on January 1. It's now 20.5 cents January 23. So this is interesting. And you're getting it cheaper than you would have got it a year ago when the revenue numbers are up significantly. Why isn't it up further? Because they're not marketing themselves. Mostly, they're doing it in the quiet. People that are watching them are really happy with them, but they're not getting watched by many because the bigger players in the cannabis space suck all the air out of the room, suck all the money out of the bank, and do nothing good with it. So generally speaking, people aren't interested in investing in cannabis, but the outliers can be interesting. And right now, with Avant Brands, if they continue to grow their revenue base, they continue to acquire inexpensive products that can add to their existing market share, suddenly they get real interesting as they get profitable. And this is a point where that's starting to look likely. As I've said, I ain't making a dollar telling you this. I'm just telling you this because I respect the game and the player. Avant Brands, one of a handful of companies that I'm going to talk about in the months ahead that involve cannabis and their opportunity. Oh, and if you're into US cannabis, stop it. Don't. The Safe Banking Act, which everyone's been talking about as being, once they pass the Safe Banking Act, all the big companies will be able to bank their money and suddenly the weed market will grow. It's already priced in, and it's not going to happen for years. Nothing is passing the US Senate in terms of cannabis. Nothing's going to be put to a vote until it's no longer a wedge issue for Democrats. And every time there's an election coming, we might allow cannabis to be legalized is going to be the thing that Democrats are going to use to get votes. The moment they allow it to be democratized, the moment they allow cannabis to be a federally mandated industry, they've got no ability to run on it any time in the future. So much like abortion, for 50 years until about 6 months ago, the Republicans had no intention of stopping abortion from being a thing. And for 50 years, they were managed to get votes out on the basis of the fact that they threaten it, but never actually deliver it. Now they've delivered it, and they lost the midterms. So the Democrats are going to keep weed as an illegal thing for a long time because it will get the weed vote out for them. They'll pretend that they're going to make change. They're not going to make change. And even if they wanted to make change, they don't have the Congress anymore. They don't have a reliable Senate majority. It's not going to happen. So Avant Brands, cool. Canadian weed market, not cool. US weed market, chill, bro. Chill.